I'm wearing dark glasses today because I'm seeing the future and it's looking very bright.
I'd go the far end of the world for you, baby.
A man can't ask for more than that.
You move me, Sale. You really do.
Wild at Heart is a 1990 American romantic crime comedy drama thriller film written and directed by David Lynch, based on the 1990 novel of the same name by Barry Guilford, starring Nicolas Cage, Laura Dern, Willem Dafoe, Crispin Glover. I don't know what this bit is. Hi, welcome to Bomb Squad Matinee, episode number 50. I'm your host and master of ceremony, Tanner Richard Kraft, and with me I have...
For no reason at all, I want to clarify that I am married to a man. My name is Austin Liebelman, and I am gay in a technical sense. Remember this for later.
This is important for later.
I'm Tim M. Sullivan. Today's date is February 14, 2025. And if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again.
Hello there. I'm a robber, a manslaughterer, and I haven't had any parental guidance. Also, Tanner, you could have done that better. I will do it here for you.
Okay.
Oregon!
It's hard. It's hard to do. It's not easy.
Try it again, this time good.
And if you couldn't tell from the... I don't know what the fuck I was doing with the DVD logo. It seemed Lynchian in my mind. Today we're talking about...
Love WandaVision.
You make fun of me, but that is what convinced you to watch the show, I'm pretty sure, is when I started calling it Lynchian.
A little bit. Bastard hoisted me.
Listen, the first couple of episodes were kind of a good fit. Anyway, today we're talking about our second ever David Lynch movie on the show. We originally weren't gonna do this movie, but then, unfortunately, I still can't fucking believe it. David Lynch passed away, which fucking sucks so much, considering it has been 20 years since he made a feature film, and by all accounts, he was trying to make one, and he just couldn't get a funding partner. And completely unrelated news, for the love of fuck, someone please give John Waters $10 million before he dies. We're running out of time. But in I put this in order so we could have a moment to honor him. I usually don't try to respond to current events like that with the schedule, but this felt like a necessary one almost.
Don't be afraid, sailor.
But I'm wild at heart.
If you're truly wild at heart, you'll fight for your dreams.
So, before we get into the movie overall, obviously we have our warm-up question, and I couldn't think of a better warm-up question, a more fitting one, given the circumstances, than what made David Lynch stand out as a director? What made him unique? What made him David Lynch? I'm sure none of you want to go first, so because of that, Joe Vrenick, you are going to go first.
All right, well, I'm actually going to keep my answer brief because I have talked relatively in depth about what I think makes David Lynch a very unique filmmaker before. I talked about it a little bit on the Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me episode that we did. Go check that out once you're done watching this one. That's
Oregon!
Exactly. I do a David Lynch impression at the very beginning, and I speak backwards. Very fun time. But I talk about it there, and I talked about it a little bit on an episode of Jump Cuts that we did recently, Tanner.
Oh, the one where he passed. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So check out that too after you've watched this video and the Twin Peaks video. But I will keep my thoughts brief on this. I think one of the many things that made David Lynch as unique a filmmaker as he was, very specifically the way that he used sound in his movies. In particular, just the industrial noises that he would use, not only as score, but as sound effects and just kind of he'd use it in like an atmospheric kind of way. And I get more in depth in it on those episodes that I plugged. But needless to say, no movie sounded like a David Lynch movie prior to David Lynch. And for the most part, no movie or anything has really sounded quite like a David Lynch movie. There's only one franchise that I think has come close, and it's
WandaVision. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. WandaVision. No, I am of course talking about Silent Hill. Silent Hill, very obviously influenced by the works of David Lynch. So, like, the creators of it are even very open about David Lynch being an influence on it, so much so that Konami and Bloober Team made an announcement about his passing when he passed away, David Lynch. That's how influential that man is. That's how unique that man is. That man changed how sound can be used in a movie, and I'm gonna pass it off to someone else who wants to go next. Thank you, Tanner.
No, of course. All good stuff. Yeah, sounds a big, obvious one. Yeah, you go back and you like watch you watch Eraserhead and you compare it to other movies coming out around that time. It's night and fucking day. What it's doing to your ears relative to other movies. And a lot of people want to point to David Lynch and his like dream logic in terms of how he was influential, but like the most obvious point of influence for him is sound and what he did with sound. It's like how similarly Martin Scorsese's obviously incredibly influential filmmaker, but I think the biggest impact he had on movies is his use of pop music in movies.
Yeah.
That was very influential. That's the most obvious thing, but it's so like it's hard to comprehend movies that existed before that type of sound design and industrial sound, or before pop music, so you kind of forget to credit these guys for being trendsetters. Tim, what to you made David Lynch stand out?
Well, yeah, I think another obvious answer that comes to mind when it comes to David Lynch is, just his general surrealism with all of his movies, and obviously with Twin Peaks. And I think I can probably fairly say that we're all filmmakers in some capacity. I think it's fair to say Lynch's work has influenced us all in one way or another. I can certainly say that with my film The Other Side, like I've noted some influences on that film. There are a lot of influences on that film. I've talked a lot about like Mandy, The Good Place, a specific scene in Better Call Saul, Mind Game. These are all things that have been a big influence. But another one I can cite is Eraserhead. Specifically, the stuff that's all in voids is like very influenced by Eraserhead. He has a very distinct sort of visual and audio style. Like Joe, you were talking about the sound. That is also a very important part of his general style and influence. And like something I noted on the Twin Peaks episode is like that scene in the bar. How basically the music is so loud and overpowering, and you have like the subtitles for all the dialogue. He has a very sort of like sensory overload kind of style with a lot of that stuff that it really leaves a mark. And we've also talked about his use of music is very important. And like there's a movie that came out last year. I've talked about it a couple times. I saw the TV Glow. There's a scene in that I felt very, very David Lynch, which is the scene where they're in the bar and the music is playing. Like you get a lot of stuff like that in Lynch's work, particularly Twin Peaks. Yeah, music, visuals, audio, a lot of great stuff that goes into Lynch's work. And I guess generally he's, you know, from the people he's worked with, he's generally been considered a very, very good person to work with, from what I can tell. I'll get into this more on my discussion on the film, but I know, like, Laura Dern, she worked with him again and again and again because she felt comfortable with him and she liked working with him. He has a lot of, you know, continuing collaborators: Isabella Rossellini, Kyle MacLachlan. Yeah, he's just so infinitely important, and it's so sad that he's gone, but his legacy will live on forever. Back to you, Tanner.
100%. Yeah, the surrealism, the dream logic. I think obviously there was a history of surrealism in film predating Lynch, obviously, arguably from the art form's foundings. You know, it was either really mundane, look at this crowd of people, but like as soon as like artists got their hands on the technology, they weren't really making narrative stuff at first. They were kind of making weird shit at first, and then the playwrights came in and, like, you know, started doing differently. Because I mean, that's the thing about filmmaking. I like to say, what truly differentiates a film versus television, especially nowadays when they seem so similar. The things that truly differentiate them isn't necessarily what they are now, but what they originated from. Film was an evolution of photography. Television was an evolution of radio. And because of that, photography is an inherently surrealist thing. But I think what Lynch really did, specifically with like the dream logic stuff, is kind of, I think, popularize it in a narrative sense. I don't think it was really that out there before. While nowadays, I think there's plenty of movies from recent years, Titan, The Substance, like, would we, or the body horror as a concept, would these things exist without Lynch? I don't know. Is Eraserhead proto body horror? Maybe. It's an interesting discussion to be had, but 100% yes, the surrealism is probably the big one people want to point to. All right, Austin, what do you think makes David Lynch unique, even if it's just copying these guys?
Well, I know this might come across as a bit reductive and maybe a little bit anecdotal, but have you ever noticed that the ladies date David Lynch?
Mm-hmm.
You might not guess it if you, like, go back and read some Roger Ebert reviews. Roger Ebert thought David Lynch was fucking diabolical.
Please don't read Roger Ebert's reviews of any David Lynch movie if you want to continue liking Roger Ebert.
Listen, I've said it on the show before. Roger Ebert, probably a good critic, but he had abysmal horror takes.
Yep.
Good God.
In my experience, I have noticed that the ladies kind of love David Lynch. And it makes me think, right? It makes me think, what is the appeal there? My mind wants to go broad strokes. David Lynch made these films that were heavy with the symbolism and ripe for analysis, but they were kind of like jazz music. Different people could take away, like, different things from his movies, and it was all kind of fair game. In a way, he was sort of like the opposite corner of directors like Shane Carruth or like Christopher Nolan, guys where their movies are complicated, but you're all putting together the same puzzle. There is a carefully constructed place that you're supposed to end up with movies like that, but David Lynch was so far out there compared to those guys. The same film nerds who can, like, break down 2001: A Space Odyssey and Synecdoche, New York, they're gonna watch Eraserhead and they're gonna shit their pants. And maybe there's something to that, you know? It levels the playing field. It goes from being like this sort of arithmetic comprised of artistic references into something that's, like, more intuitive. Like psychoanalyzing a dream with your weird friend, you know? I mean, whatever it was, Lynch had the sauce. There is a popular video of him eating panties, and nobody gave a fuck. Maybe everybody's grateful he gave us Laura Dern. Who knows? But the ladies love David Lynch. And one thing I always admired about David Lynch was his ability to invent these sequences that would have worked incredibly well as experimental art films and weave them into his motion pictures without it feeling like they're two separate entities that are battling for control. The opening dance sequence from Mulholland Drive is one of the scariest fucking things I have ever seen. I think if I had seen that for the first time in an actual movie theater, I would have passed out. And Twin Peaks season 3 episode 8 has that nuclear bomb sequence, and then it erupts into fucked up Stan Brakhage level shit. There aren't many directors who do that.
This is the well.
And even fewer directors who do it well. Like, I guess Jodorowsky's still alive, and Inarritu has his moments, and I will be dead in the fucking ground before I say a single nice thing about Leo Carax. Fuck that guy! But David Lynch really pushed the envelope in the way that he blended typical narrative filmmaking with these surreal episodes straight out of his transcendental mind. I think Tanner and Tim touched on this really well. Did you guys know that before production started on The Shining, right, Stanley Kubrick got the cast and crew together and he told them, I'm gonna screen a movie. This is the exact mood that we are trying to go for on The Shining. That movie was Eraserhead. And everybody who went to film school knows when George Lucas saw Eraserhead for the first time, he was like, hey, I know I just made the biggest movie ever. Would you like to direct its sequel? Would you like to direct The Empire Strikes Back? David Lynch.
No, Return of the Jedi.
Really? It was fucking episode 6? I always remembered it as 5.
The video of David Lynch describing that story is the funniest thing ever, because it's mostly just David Lynch the entire time being like, what the fuck? Did you watch my movie?
I will say this. Like, Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars, always will be. I want to know what David Lynch's Revenge of the Jedi looks like. I want to see that movie. It would have been like Return of the Jedi is generally not super well liked. David Lynch's version would be hated by Star Wars normies, but it would be interesting.
I don't know. It'd probably be a worse movie, but I agree. It'd be interesting.
I'll say this. If those fucking tumor monsters in Dune say anything, imagine what he would fucking do with Jabba the Hutt.
Oh!
Jabba the Hutt would just be like the most obese man you've ever seen in your life.
It's just Orson Welles just fucking slathered with KY jelly. Just fucking...
yeah, probably.
Disgusting. But yeah, like, he made the Citizen Kane of weird movies when he was literally a nobody. He proved with stuff like The Elephant Man and Straight Story that being weird wasn't the only trick he had in his book. He had a spectacular film career, and he changed the face of television. Forever! In so much as you could talk about, like, for hours, what his films mean. You can also just really go marveling at the things he accomplished for a very long time. David Lynch was one of a kind. And the ladies love David Lynch. Rest in peace, dude. Back to you, Tanner.
Yeah, you're really tapping into something when you talk about how the ladies love David Lynch. I'm immediately reminded of when David Lynch passed, there was just a flood of people getting their deservedly getting their thoughts in on Twitter, Instagram, the Facebooks, Blue Sky. I'm sure someone did it on Threads. I wouldn't know. I don't think there's a real human on that website. But one of the tweets that stuck out of my mind in the immediate days after Lynch's passing was someone talking about how in Laura Palmer, they saw every woman they've ever known that was, harmed. Mm-hmm. And the kindness that Lynch gave Laura Palmer, the kindness, specifically in Fire Walks with Me, the kindness that was shown towards her, gave her hope that a woman can overcome. Mm-hmm. Even though you can argue, I don't know if Laura Palmer did. I mean, that's a whole. We're not talking about Twin Peaks. I'm not qualified to, guys. I have a confession. I haven't watched Twin Peaks.
Tanner, I don't think we can be friends anymore.
That's fine. I've been meaning to get around to it.
At least not until you watch Twin Peaks. I am no longer your friend.
They just put out like a whole new Blu-ray set, the Z to A collection. It's all the Twin Peaks shit. It's a Blu-ray of all the Twin Peaks things. I just got myself a copy.
You probably can barely see it, but I have the entire series right here. I will let you watch it.
I've seen a lot of Firewalks with Me for what it's worth. I don't think I've seen it the whole way through, but I've seen a lot of it. And Cheryl Lee is a fucking force. I don't understand why she's not in more movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think David Lynch, there is something to be said about like a lot of his movies do. I mean, the movie we're talking about today has pretty explicit, well, I guess you don't actually see it, but there is a scene on some level depicting sexual assault.
Yeah.
And like, I think a lesser movie would have dwelled in that more, in a way that this one doesn't. We'll talk about that more when we talk about the actual movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all fantastic stuff, from the sound to the surrealism to, you know, his relationship with his female characters, is all great, brilliant stuff. Which is why I can't say any of those things, because you guys took it from me, which I was expecting, mind you. Which is why the answer I've basically prepared today is going in a slightly different direction. All of the things you bring up about what makes Lynch stand out as a director are obviously true. They were true when he was making his movies in the first place. They've always been true. I think what makes Lynch stand out in a more contemporary context, what makes him stand out, at least to me, amongst what movies are now, is his sincerity. Even with all of his weird dream logic, I do not think there is an ironic bone in David Lynch's body. Even his comedy is very sincere. Everything, it's filmmaking with wearing your heart on your sleeve, and, you know, leaving it all out on the table, and just total and complete emotional honesty that I think is really lacking in a lot of movies today. You know, I look at this year's Best Picture lineup at the Oscars, and there's a lot of movies I like there, and a lot of them are fairly sincere, but like, I think the way people interact with movies now has this insincere streak to them.
Yeah.
In a way, I don't think I've ever seen anyone interact with Lynch's movies insincerely. Because they are so sincere. They are so of what they are.
I'm gonna get into what you just said later.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that per se. I think there's not like an invalid way to enjoy art, or to quote unquote consume art. I don't think there's an invalid way. I just think it's rather remarkable that even like these, you know, irony poisoned 20-year-olds that are discovering David Lynch's work for the first time, I find that they're not really memeing on it. Obviously there are memes, but that's like not the primary form. It kind of immediately activates like the sincerity in your head. Even some of the great filmmakers that are still alive that I would argue are very sincere, like James Cameron or Steven Spielberg, they are very sincere filmmakers. People still often interact with the works in a comedy first format in a way I just don't really see with Lynch's work. And I think that's how he influences filmmaking. Now, I will say, even as someone hasn't really watched Twin Peaks, I can pretty clearly identify how Twin Peaks is maybe the most influential television show of all time, in the sense that I feel like it was prestige TV before prestige TV was even a thing.
Yeah.
That's the big one. And number two, what are some of the most popular shows of the 21st century? I'm not talking about like critically acclaimed. I'm talking about pure popularity.
Friends. Cheers.
Okay. I was thinking more. Shows, both of those are the 20th century, but Lost.
21st. Gotcha.
You have shows like Lost, or Westworld, Fringe, Breaking Bad, but that's not really as much as what I'm thinking of. But maybe a little bit Breaking Bad, in the sense that it's less about the central conceit of these shows and more about the world, the lore, the not just the central mystery, but the mystery of it all. What show did that before Twin Peaks did? You know, with the mystery and the world building and the lore like that. Twin Peaks kind of like would we have J.J. Abrams if not for Twin Peaks?
Wait, hold on.
That might be a bit of a stretch there.
No, I'm not saying. Would Lost exist without Twin Peaks?
Okay, so there's this show called The Prisoner with Patrick McGowan. It's from the 60s. You're gonna fucking love it.
All right, I'm looking up The Prisoner. However, I think it's probably obvious to say that Twin Peaks is a more popular show than The Prisoner was.
Oh yeah.
At least in America.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you might think I'm stretching it, Joe, but J.J. Abrams broke into relevancy with Lost. And I think it's very easy to say that Lost wouldn't have happened if Twin Peaks didn't pave a road for it.
Tanner, I'm not saying you're wrong. However, don't put J.J. Abrams and David Lynch in the same sentence.
That's not what I'm saying. I understand what you're saying. I'm not comparing them as filmmakers. I'm just... There's a lot of modern television that was completely paved the road for via Twin Peaks. And I can recognize that as someone that hasn't even watched it. David Lynch's influence is just forever lasting, forever reaching, from the way he used sound, from the way he used dream logic to the sincerity and the way he wrote his characters. I'm in a bummer mood. Sorry. This sucks. I can't believe he's fucking gone, man.
Yeah.
David Lynch permanently changed the landscape of two art forms, cinema and television. And that's not to say all of the other wonderful work he did. Like, he was a painter before he was a filmmaker, and his paintings are, quite frankly, remarkable. They're wonderful. He's made a ton of music. It's great. He made a PS2 commercial, and the PS2 is the highest selling console of all time.
Cool.
I mean, come on.
Damn.
The world will forever miss him. It still doesn't feel real that he's gone. Now that we're done talking about the guy, what did we think of the movie? Find out after a brief commercial break.
Stop, you sons of bitches! This is the police! Hold it or I'll shoot!
Welcome back from that commercial break to another commercial. See that thing behind me? That's a movie palette. There's one above Tim's head too. Basically what it does, it takes a primary frame of every movie. It takes the primary color out of every frame, slices up in these little bits, and puts it on a little palette to be viewed as a piece of art. I'm sure you can get one for your favorite movie, the movie we're talking about today, Wild at Heart, or maybe even Elephant Man or Eraserhead. I don't know why you'd want that, but I'm sure you can get that. It would probably be black, white, black, white, black, white.
Probably not, because they didn't have one for OG Godzilla. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I guess it's kind of like
they do have one for
white and gray.
They do have one for Schindler's List, and I think that's just because there's like one scene where there's color.
Yeah, there's gonna be like near the end of the palette. If you look closely, you see red.
Yeah, there's like one sliver of blue.
But yeah, go to moviepalette.com, get one, add it to your cart. Before you check out, make sure you enter that code SQUAD15 to save 15% on your order. All right, now back to the show. Now, before we get back to the show, before we talk about Wild at Heart, there's actually one last thing about David Lynch's influence I forgot to mention. The most obvious thing that I can't believe I mentioned, unlike literally any other director on the planet, I guarantee you, he is the only director on the planet to have a reoccurring role in the Cleveland Show. And I think that really represents how important he is. That's not a fucking joke. He shows up in like 30 episodes of the Cleveland Show, the Seth MacFarlane show you forgot existed.
Jesus fuck.
This is not a joke.
Ridey horsey up and down. Watch out, little boy, don't fall down.
It just goes to show that David Lynch really did have a sense of humor about himself.
Yeah. He loved everything. He like, people are like, oh, he's so weird. He was in like 20 episodes of the Cleveland Show. a show you forgot existed.
No, I watch it all the time on
That's
my
a
phone.
goddamn. I just said the Cleveland show, and you went, "Does he mean Family Guy?" Or you thought you thought it meant Eastbound and Down or some shit. Anyway,
I thought you meant the Drew Carey show.
It's
That's
the one
true.
with the bear. It's got a bear in it.
I was
The
gonna
bear-
say, there's old friends and new friends and even a bear.
What did we think of Wild at Heart, everybody? Tim, we'll start with you.
There we go. Yeah, Wild at Heart. This is one that I've been meaning to revisit for a while. Like, as much as I love David Lynch and his work, I'm bad about revisiting it. So I'm glad I was able to get an opportunity to revisit it. This is a movie that truly is wild at heart. The first time that the thing that made me learn that this movie existed was I was playing a game of like Seen It with my sister and her husband and their friends, and there was a clip of like the part where Galinda is coming down in the bubble to talk to Nicolas Cage. They were like, "What movie is this?" And we're just like, "What? Yeah, what movie is this? What the shit is this?" Yeah, that with no context, it was wild. But then, I finally watched the movie after I'd been exposed to Lynch a fair bit, and it's great. It's got all of Lynch's trademarks. It's got weird sound shit. It's got heavy metal intermittently as the guy's getting his brains bashed into the stairs, and also during the fucking. Yeah, a lot of good music in this. A lot of good, just weird, interesting audio choices. Performances are incredible. I'll start with fucking the man, the myth, the teeth, Willem Dafoe. He's so goddamn creepy in this fucking movie. This might be his creepiest role, and that's saying something. Like, I feel like if I was in a room with his character in this movie, I'd have to go take a shower after. It's so fucking wild. Nicolas Cage, bringing his 90s Nicolas Cage, Elvis impersonator energy into this role. He's just Nick Caging it up the whole time. And he's real strong in the role. Love seeing him. And I kind of alluded to this, but I do think Laura Dern is definitely the heart of the movie. Something that I thought was interesting, I looked this up. Apparently, she had a no nudity clause prior to the movie, but she broke it because she was that comfortable with Lynch as a director and thought that the scenes where she would be nude, she felt safe. She didn't feel like she was in harm's way at all, which kind of speaks to what we were talking about with Lynch. Just being such a very chill guy when it comes to, female characters and the actresses he works with and their stories and just making them comfortable and giving them, like, really honest, earnest roles. And I think it's really fascinating the way, they show her having sex with Nick Cage and being like very passionate about it, just having a great time doing that, but then they juxtapose it with all these scenes of her flashing back to sexual assault, and it feels like a very real, very nuanced kind of portrayal of what a victim of that would be experiencing on a regular basis. And that kind of brings me to what I was alluding to with Tanner. I want to talk about, there was a story last year, I think it was, there was a screening of Blue Velvet at the Music Box Theater in Chicago. It's like a late night screening, and apparently there was like just a bunch of fucking dude bros laughing it up at all the sexual assault shit, and it was like so bad that they had to make like response on social media about it the next day. And like apparently that's like a regular thing that happens at Lynch midnight screenings, is like dudes will come in and just not interact with the movie the way it's supposed to be interacted with. They're laughing at the exact wrong things. And if you're going to a public screening of one of these movies and laughing at sexual assault shit, fuck you, you're a despicable person. And you know what Tanner was talking about, the sincerity of Lynch's movies. I think, unfortunately, there are some people who do interact with these insincerely, and that sucks, because these are really good, really important movies. So don't be that guy. Laugh at the parts that are supposed to be funny, like Heineken, fuck that shit, Pabst Blue Ribbon. That's a good line. But this movie, Wild at Heart, I think is, you know, very, very good, nuanced portrayal of that. And one last thing, this might be in Austin's notes because it's a very Austin thing. But this movie was originally slapped with an X because of the scene where Willem Dafoe gets his head blown off, and they had to censor it down to an R. They just like covered up with some smoke. But what's interesting about this is that this makes David Lynch one of very few directors to have received every MPAA rating at least once.
Whoa.
There's like, you can count them on your hands how many directors have actually done this, and I don't think any of them have actually like kept their NC-17 movie, unfortunately. But like, just receiving all 5 is like, that's extremely fucking rare. So I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, Wild at Heart, good movie. Back to you, Tanner.
Well, yeah.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. All right. Austin, what did you think of Wild at Heart?
So, I'm not gonna lie. I sometimes associate David Lynch with this kind of like understated, slightly obtuse kind of absurdism. Think of stuff like his short films or like huge chunks of Eraserhead. Films that look like they take place in like a warped version of the 1950s, and they have occasional bursts of expression. But the balance normally leans more towards like moments of quiet. For every, like, look at my knees, you've got 15 minutes of, like, a young man quietly feeling out of place. And that's what threw me off about Wild at Heart. It flew straight in the fucking face of that tone that I had associated Lynch with in my mind. This is like Predator 2, or like Beau is Afraid. It takes place in a cartoon hell world where everything is extreme. And the 2 things I knew about this movie going in were, it's impossible to buy a copy of this online for some reason.
Yeah. You can't even stream it.
It's so, what the hell?
Criterion, get on this shit.
One of the theories I ran into online is this is a Samuel Goldwyn film, and that was purchased by MGM, who hasn't had a lot of money as of late. So some of the back catalog films that like might not, you know, make the Kickstarter.
Maybe a couple of years ago, MGM doesn't have money would be a problem. But I'm sorry, they're owned by fucking Amazon now.
Yeah, why is this not on Prime? Come on.
You know, same exact thing happened to the Cowboy Bebop movie. Also a Samuel Goldwyn picture that's, like, impossible to stream here.
There must be some weird legal issues we don't know about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it was the fact you can't buy a copy online for some fucking reason, and what Tim said about how Willem Dafoe gets his head blown off with a shotgun, and they had to censor it with smoke, kind of like the head explosion in Raiders. And that's in keeping with my understanding of Lynch. A moment of, like, strong violence near the film's climax. That happens in Eraserhead, that happens in Blue Velvet, that happens in Fire Walk With Me. So I put on Wild at Heart with my fucking husband, thinking we're about to have some time to, like, warm up before somebody gets turned into chunks. Boy, was that stupid. This movie starts off with Nicolas Cage fucking beating a man's skull on the ground until his brains are coming out. I thought fucking Taxi Driver was in your face about its opening visuals announcing that you're in, like, some modern depiction of hell, I tell you what, Wild at Heart makes Taxi Driver look like The Good Place. The first 3 minutes of this movie are just non-stop hellfire set to Angelo Badalamenti music. Lynch even used to say in interviews that Wild at Heart was supposed to be a love story set in hell. Question for you guys, for the forum. Since people love to get all, like, intimate about Lynch's motivations, does this movie make more sense or less sense if you analyze it from the point of view that this movie was made by a 43-year-old man? Does Wild at Heart seem like something a dude would make in his 40s? To the forum.
Hold on, I'm gonna check if he was recently divorced with this one.
I can see it.
Yeah, he divorced Mary Fisk in '87, so it might add up.
Might have carried over. This is his Temple of Doom. This is.
Let me just say for the record that David Lynch is the only person I can think of who has been married and divorced 4 times, and as far as I know, every single one of his ex-wives has nothing but nice things to say about him.
Mm-hmm.
We stand a king.
My guess would be, so David Lynch, he makes the Twin Peaks pilot, then he makes Wild at Heart, then he makes the rest of Twin Peaks. I'm betting that he knew going in that in order to tone himself down enough for network TV, he needed to, like, release all the R-rated shit that was, like, clogging up his dream journal. He packed Wild at Heart full of, like, brutal violence and foul language and tits. And what do you know? That turned out to be how you win the fucking Palme d'Or! Highest honor in film, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! As somebody who has a soft spot for crude bullshit, especially crude bullshit that's trying to be artsy, this was 100% up my alley. For reference, my favorite movies of 2023, Poor Things, Beau is Afraid, favorite movie of last year, The Substance. Wild at Heart is probably my 3rd favorite thing Lynch has ever made, following, like, Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive. There are a lot of his movies where the shtick doesn't, like, delight me. Symbols that kind of fall flat, bits that don't land, but Wild at Heart is chock full of bits that actually work. Here's my like, greatest hits catalog. Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern discussing how young they were when they started smoking, and Nicolas Cage said he started when he was 4, but by that point his mom had already died of lung cancer. That whole conversation. The Jingle Dells section, where the editing and the narration makes you think it's gonna be some, like, quirky story about a guy who made a bad choice. But instead, it's just a schizophrenic man screaming. Harry Dean Stanton in the hotel bed watching 2 dogs get, like, murdered on TV. Transfixed, he starts quietly barking like a dog. Or the quote, them are making a pornographic movie, Texas style. And of course, the greatest bit of all, Nicolas Cage, surrounded by goons, fresh out of jail, abandoning his wife and child, he stands alone and says his last words, "What do you want?" Oh God! And I am back and forth. And I'm a little bit back and forth on admitting this publicly, but at the end of the Bobby Peru scene where he assaults Laura Dern, the pivot to Bugs Bunny bullshit actually did catch me off guard. That whole scene was terribly uncomfortable, but Dafoe's delivery on that line kind of broke the tension in this really perfect way. It was fucking crazy. See, I'm doing a boring list of big laughs because I made the fucking mistake of listening to Renegade Cut's video about this film. You know how you guys get on episodes like Raiders and The Dark Knight and say shit like, what else is there to say that hasn't already been said? Yeah, fucking Renegade Cut dropped the end-all be-all Wild at Heart analysis 7 goddamn years ago, and it only took him 10 minutes. If you want to know what this movie means, go watch that. All I've got is commentary and trivia. The analysis machine broke. And with that sad admission, I ought to start packing my bags to fuck off. In closing, Wild at Heart is a really top-of-the-line David Lynch film. It's like Blue Velvet if the whole goddamn movie was set in, like, the crime universe that Dennis Hopper's character was from. 8 out of 10. Back to you, Tanner.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic stuff. All right. Oh.
All right, my time to shine. Okay, so here's kind of where this movie falls on the David Lynch spectrum for me, because I've seen all of his feature-length stuff. I've seen all of Twin Peaks. I've seen a decent chunk of his short films. I've not seen Dumbland, though. I've never seen Dumbland. I don't know if that's worth it or not, though. I've heard very mixed things. But here's kind of where Wild at Heart falls on that spectrum. I want to say it falls more in the center towards the top tier. I like it more than some other things David Lynch has done. Definitely like it more than Dune. I think I might be coming around on Lost Highway just a little bit, but I'm not there quite yet, so I still like Wild at Heart more than Lost Highway. As much as I like Inland Empire, I think I still like Wild at Heart more. But it's nowhere near for me. I don't like it more than Eraserhead. I don't like it more than Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvets. Those are tough bars to beat, though. But what Wild at Heart does well, it does really well. We talked about it. Nicolas Cage, he's the man in this. He's going full Elvis, and that's always wonderful to see. He tells the story about the one girl who said, "Come here and eat peach." I think that woman was in the wrong Nicolas Cage movie, because there's another movie where he can eat a peach for hours. Good old...
No, I don't think he's in Call Me By Your Name.
I haven't even seen that movie, and I know what you're talking about. Oh my god. But yeah, Nicolas Cage, fucking great. Laura Dern, I will go as far as to say it. She's fucking fearless in this, and she is great. Like, this is top tier Laura Dern. Easily like one of her best performances ever. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say better than the one she won an Oscar for. But that fucking performance in Marriage Story is pretty good. I will give you that. But let's be real. The real fucking standout of this movie is Willem Dafoe. In a world where David Lynch has created a ton of scumbags, he's definitely top tier David Lynch scumbag. I think he's more of a scumbag more than the creepy guy from Lost Highway. Definitely not as big a scumbag as fucking Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet, or Richard Horn in the return season of Twin Peaks. That guy's a real fucking son of a bitch. Holy shit. But he is top tier villain in this. He is creepy as shit. Those fucking teeth he has. Like Tim even said, it's like, if I was in a room with that guy, I'd want to take a shower immediately after he left. Like, he makes you feel unclean.
Like, the first time I watched the movie, I didn't realize it was Willem Dafoe. That's how fucked up they made him look in this movie.
And honestly, it makes the moment where he gets his head blown off all the more satisfying. Because, like, that fucking evil is out of the world for good, and his head turned into a peanut. It's very funny when it shows his head getting blown off, and then just like this little tiny bit just kind of flies up into the air. It's gruesome as shit, don't get me wrong, but admittedly it is a little funny. It's like, there's definitely stuff in this that is admittedly, like, yeah, you can admit it's pretty grotesque and fucked up, but it is kind of funny. None of it is the stuff that people go to laugh at Blue Velvet, sadly. All of that is played straight, and it's fucking disturbing. And if you laugh at that, you're an asshole. Fuck you. But yeah, no, like Willem Dafoe's head turning into a peanut when it gets blown off, or the fucking dog with the hand, and they're just like, "Where'd my hand go? We can get it sewn back on." Yeah, grotesque as fuck, but you're allowed to laugh at that. That is kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the real big thing that I got out of this movie, and this is what I will end on my thoughts on Wild at Heart, which is a great movie. You should definitely see it. The one thing that I really took away from this movie is that, man, oh man, David Lynch really fucking loves The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't?
He has a quote where he says he thinks about the Wizard of Oz every single day. Like, it pops up in his brain every day when he, is awake at some point.
I choose to think that he's in Emerald City now.
When I was like first getting into like film as like a wider thing, like as a teenager, I remember thinking Wizard of the Oz, whatever, overrated, bullshit. And then like around the time I turned 22, illegal votes. Around the time I turned 22, I actually went, The Wizard of Oz is fucking awesome. Actually, I was just being a dipshit teenager.
It's so good.
The Wizard of Oz is so fucking good. Can we just talk about The Wizard of Oz now? Hold on.
we can talk about all the Wizard of Oz references in this. There's a lot of them.
This is a wicked podcast.
Well, I mean, my background is green. It would be fitting.
The list, and it's also extremely backlit. The list of actresses what are the number of characters played by both Cheryl Lee and Ariana Grande? Number 1, Glinda. Number 2, Glinda. Number 3, Glinda.
Damn.
Because she spit hot fire.
All right, my time to shine. Hello. Okay, thank God you guys have all said really smart, insightful, interesting stuff. I'm ready to bring it all crashing down. I like every David Lynch movie. I need to say that. I even like his fucking Dune movie. I don't know if I like it for the reasons he wants me to like it, but I even like his Dune movie.
David Lynch fucking hates his Dune.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure he doesn't give a shit if you like it for the reasons he doesn't want you to like it.
Fair enough. Point being, I do really like Wild at Heart. I love Wild at Heart even. I give it a 4 out of 5. I give like every Lynch movie at minimum a 4 out of 5 because, he's David fucking Lynch.
Right on.
That being said, if you were ranking David Lynch movies from like his least good, because they're all at least good, but like his least good to best, for me, caveat being that I haven't seen Fire Walk With Me all the way through, and I still need to watch The Straight Story. Dune, Lost Highway, Wild at Heart, for me, probably. That's not to say I don't love it. I do really love it. I love Nick Cage in this movie. I love Nick Cage doing his little Elvis thing. His Elvis singing voice is really funny. I like Laura Dern when she does that thing where like Nick Cage is like, I love you, baby. And Laura Dern is so overwhelming with excitement. She does like jumping jacks in her feet only. It's fucking, I don't know how else to describe it. You know what I'm talking about. There was a time when like the Alamo was playing Wild at Heart in like an upcoming month. And like the start of their like, here are the old movies we're playing this month trailer would always start with that shot of Laura Dern going ape shit.
Oh yeah.
She's brilliant. Willem Dafoe's great. Crispin Glover's in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. He's good in it.
He is. Yeah.
I think it's weird that he's portraying his character from Back to the Future again. But he's really good. No, I'm kidding. Literally everyone's great in this. Even Cheryl Lee in her cameo as Glinda the Good Witch. She's kind of fucking incredible. And David Lynch was gifted when it came to working with actors, I think. He always knew how to get the exact performance he wanted out of them. This is a sweet love story. It's a delicious treat. It just doesn't like stay with me as much as I wish it did, I think is what's going on here. I do love it. And maybe on a subsequent viewing, something's going to unlock for me and I'm going to be like, oh, I was a dipshit before. But really, there's nothing more I can say that you guys haven't said. It's fucking quite frankly, kind of funny when Willem Dafoe's brain gets blown off. All the performances are incredible. It's really funny hearing Nick Cage say, "What do you want?" That's just really, really good. Tim's gonna kill me. I can see it in his eyes.
I'm just gonna put flags in front of your guys' mouths when you say it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
What do you flags want? I don't really know what else to say other than it's great. And I am probably gonna love it more as I get older, as I watch it more, and like I understand things about it. I'll probably have an Elvis phase when I'm 37 and get really into this movie. So that'll be cool. All right. Well, we got like a couple minutes. Really quick. Does anyone want to discuss something generally? Real quick, buys.
I want to talk about at least one of the scenes that stuck with me.
Which is?
There's two. Specifically, it's when they're driving down the highway. Laura Dern's at the wheel, and she's like changing the radio stations, and like all of it is just like nothing but like horrible news.
Yeah.
Like everything's going up wrong in the world, like violence, sexual assaults, crime, all this like horrible all these horrible
and
things.
And then you turned the news off and started watching the movie.
But like all these like horrible like news stories are like being like spoken over the radio. She pulls over the car and she's freaking the fuck out, and she's like, "Put some goddamn music on or I'm gonna lose my mind." And then Nicolas Cage, he's just like flipping through the radio yet again. You keep hearing the news, like you hear like buzzwords, and then all of a sudden he just like he finds a heavy metal station, and then they just fucking let loose.
Yeah.
As someone who deleted Facebook, basically all of fucking social media, because I cannot fucking stand the news, and I don't want to spend another fucking 4 years of just nothing but political posts on social media. I just fucking stop. I get it. Please, for the love of God. I have to hear it enough in real life already. I don't need to see it on social media. I kind of felt that whole scene where I'm just like, turn this fucking shit off, play some fucking music, or I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. And yeah, that is one of the scenes that has like really fucking stuck out with me on this go around. On top of that, I'll go to the other scene too. I think and I'll leave some room for you guys to chime in on this one. It's one of the many Twin Peaks quote-unquote cameos that kind of shot around the same time. One of the many Twin Peaks quote-unquote cameos. It's the Cheryl and Fenn scene, where it's like they find the wrecked car, and Cheryl and Fenn, she's just like bleeding from the head and just like rambling on. It's like, I need to find my bobby pin. My mom's gonna kill me. And it just keeps going on like that. I wish I had the words to fucking describe it, but I think a lot of it has to do with Cheryl and Fenn's performance in it, but that whole sequence just freaks me the fuck out.
Well, the way Lynch described it was like you're a porcelain doll that's breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear God! That might explain it. Holy shit!
Mm-hmm. It's pretty good direction as far as it's giving your actor a sentence and letting them run with it.
Oh my God!
So on my rewatch today, I started watching it like a little bit before 3 p.m. And so my fiance came in. She like works 8 to 4:30, so she came in a couple minutes before. Like literally, she walked in right at the scene where Nick Cage says the thing.
Oh my God!
I prefaced her that was a thing that happened in the movie before this, but yeah. So she was just in there doing dishes for the last like couple minutes of the movie. So then credits are rolling, and Nick Cage is singing "Love Me Tender." And after he finishes singing that, she just goes, "Okay, having no context whatsoever, would it be weird to put that in the wedding playlist?"
So real.
So we will.
So real.
We will probably have "Love Me Tender" in the wedding playlist at some point. Unfortunately, probably not the Nick Cage version. I don't think there's like an album with that we can get to our DJ, but we'll settle.
Tim.
We'll settle for the Elvis version, I guess.
Timothy, my good man, I may be able to supply you with that.
Ooh.
DM later.
Yes.
Laura Dern's real mom. I wanted to say it because I didn't know.
Yep.
I didn't know Dern's mom, Lula's mom in this movie is Laura Dern's actual fucking mom. Like Laura Dern's son, Ellery, went to David Lynch one day and was like, I'm so excited to see the movies you made with my mom. And David Lynch was like, well, wait until you're 30 to watch Wild at Heart. Not because of your mom's performance, but because of your grandma's performance. I had no idea they were related. That blew my fucking mind. Like, I also thought Nick Cage didn't do his own singing. That also blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ.
Nick Cage, the big thing I read about for this movie is that Nick Cage, in the process of making this movie, he came to the realization that method acting overrated.
Yeah.
He was a big method actor before this movie. And then because David Lynch was constantly improvising, constantly rewriting, Nick Cage realized how freeing it was not to go full method.
Now I'm imagining Nick Cage method acting on the set of Mandy, just coming in covered in blood every day.
He will only be addressed as Mr. President.
Sure.
He will only be addressed as the writer, and his head will be on fire the entire time.
Detonators.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What was it? So apparently, the original Australian theatrical cut of this movie begins with a scene of Sailor fucking Lula's mom in a bathroom. This has since been cut, and I couldn't find it anywhere. If anybody with the Shout Factory DVD, that's you, Joe, wants to go through the deleted scenes and see if this is accessible to the public, you will be my hero. I kind of want to see that.
I will comb through it as best as I can for you, my good man.
It just sounds fake, you know? It sounds like, oh, if you use strength on the car, Mew is under there. Like, it sounds like it's made up by someone on the internet.
It does sound fake, I'm not gonna lie.
Lula's mama. Fucking Christ.
I will say this, Tim, you had mentioned Cody had walked in and just saw one scene out of context. I'm not gonna lie, I'm expecting I was expecting you to say the scene where Lula's mom just covers her face in fucking lipstick. That's a scene to fucking walk in without any fucking context. It definitely grabs your attention.
I didn't get the Wizard of Oz reference at the end when Lula, like, splashes water on the portrait of the mom and it evaporates into steam. I was like, oh, he's just being funny. And then Sid had to point it out.
What did you think that was?
I thought he was being funny.
Just to fucking, you're just watching this movie and you're like, yeah, fairies. Makes sense. He did just say the F slur. Okay, I'm with you. Like, that's what I imagine Austin's thought process was.
Actually, you know what? I want to bring up that scene because I guess I've remembered it completely.
Joe, for the last time, you can't say
I am not going to say it, Tanner. But what I'm trying to say is it's like, I think I just remembered that scene incorrectly for whatever reason. Because it's like, would always describe that scene as like, he says the F slur, gets knocked the fuck out, sees the good witch, and then he gets up and he goes, I'd like to apologize to you gentlemen for referring to you as homosexuals. And the guys just go, oh yeah, no, it's okay, dude. It's so cool. I think because I just wanted to remember that scene in a more funny way than it actually ends.
They did have chiller vibes when he got up, though. Like, they just let him leave.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To be fair, though, when he does say, I want to apologize for referring to you gentlemen as homosexuals, you do see the one guy in the background just kind of nod, like, yeah, it's okay.
That one hurted. That one hurted him.
Willem Dafoe pissed in a prop toilet.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. He had to piss, so he actually took a piss, and then later found out some poor crew member had to clean it out.
It wasn't even like a close up where you can see it. He just did it.
No, because he actually had to pee. It was hurting him.
He drank
He drank a big bottle of water. Yeah,
we've all been
he's
there.
Like, I gotta fucking pee.
We've all been
So he's
there.
just like, well, my character pees in this scene anyway. And then later found out someone had to clean it out, and I could just. You gotta imagine like the poor like PA or crew member that was stuck with that job has a grudge against a foe for the rest of his fucking life.
You know,
like there's no coming back from being forced to clean up a man's piss.
I was making $5 an hour.
You know, I don't know if it was around this time that Eli Roth started to do like crew work for David Lynch, but
please,
I want to. I would like to believe that he had to be the crew member that cleaned up Willem Dafoe's piss out of the prop toilet.
Dear Lord, please give all of David Lynch's suffering and give it to Eli Roth.
Yeah,
including the dying.
Yeah.
Lord, I come before you today humbled and humiliated to ask you for one thing. I want you to kill Eli Roth.
Okay, but it's gonna cost you some Hail Marys. And then Tanner just starts putting like red lipstick all over his face because he's going nuts.
Now this is Lynchian.
God, I can't defend that man anymore. I hate to say it, but I cannot defend that man anymore.
I thought you were talking about me for a second. I forgot who we were talking about.
No, we're
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I thought I was like, I didn't know the Catholic joke was that bad, man.
No, not you. I'm talking about
Joseph Rennick, adult convert.
No, I cannot defend Eli Roth anymore.
I don't think any of it. I mean, it's not like he was that good of a filmmaker to begin with. No offense. Okay, before I get us canceled, does anyone else have anything, general thoughts?
No.
Then we're moving on to final thoughts. Joe, we'll start with you.
Yeah, Wild at Heart. Great fucking movie. It's a road trip love story told in a way that only David Lynch can tell it. I'd argue one of his more accessible movies. Definitely more accessible than Mulholland Drive. That movie will leave you scratching your head for days on end. Maybe not so much Wild at Heart though. If you've not seen a David Lynch movie and you want to kind of start a little bit light but still get a good feel of what he is like as a filmmaker, Wild at Heart's not really a bad place to start. Good movie, fun time. For the most part, there's some fucked up shit in that movie, but yeah, no, good movie. Back to you, Tanner.
All good stuff. Tim, final thoughts.
Move over, Midsommar. This is the real Wizard of Oz for perverts. Great film. Love it. Maybe not my favorite Lynch, but this is a solid picture. I wish it was more available for watching. So if MGM owns this shit, get it on Prime. Make it so people can watch this without using frowned upon methods. But yeah, good movie, and rest in peace to David Lynch, a master of the craft, and just somebody who left a mammoth footprint on the world of film. Back to you, Tanner.
No, I 100% agree. Especially with the talking about how like Prime owns MGM, just put it on Prime or some shit. You know, every time I order a kale salad from Whole Foods, I want a DVD copy of Wild Heart to come with it.
Wild Heart?
Wild at Heart, sorry.
The Wild?
You get a DVD copy of David Lynch's editor cut of Disney's The Wild.
Long
thought buried deep in the Disney vault. Due to a weird contractual obligation from his work on The Straight Story, David Lynch was forced to do an unreleased re-edit of Disney's The Wild.
That movie at points looks like a David Lynch movie because of how bad because the animation of that movie is fucking dog shit. I would actually want to see a David Lynch cut of that movie.
Joe, at points, if you showed a single frame of that movie to anyone and said, this is from a David Lynch movie, they would believe you.
Show them the koala that has, like, the Frankenstein head.
Oh, God.
Oh, Boston, final thoughts.
Guys aren't kidding.
It's so fucked up looking, man.
Wild at Heart is a blasphemous pastiche with a fire in its soul. This movie's tone is what I imagine Oliver Stone was trying to do with Natural Born Killers before he went and made a giant pile of shit. Hopefully someday MGM will have enough cash to let some of the Samuel Goldwyn titles like this and the Cowboy Bebop movie reach audiences to stream online. But I'll say in closing, if you do want to go out of your way and hunt this thing down, you will absolutely not be disappointed. Back to you, Tanner.
Oh, great stuff. Great stuff. Wild at Heart is a great movie. I really liked revisiting it. David Lynch was a tremendous influence, a tremendous artist, and the world will forever miss having him. The world will forever miss having him, his vision, his art, his everything. And I'm not going to do a joke, that outro. So that's all for this episode of Bomb Squad Matinee. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you're listening to any of the audio platforms we're on, go ahead and leave us a review. It boosts us in the algorithm or something. I don't know. I just work here. And if you are listening, how about you mosey on down over to our Patreon, where the $5 reward tier gets you access to our commentary tracks. We most recently released one for 12 Angry Men. Stay tuned for one on the movie Swiss Army Man this month. I recorded that back in December, so it's guaranteed to come out this month. And any various other tracks released in the future and have already released. And on the $10 tier, you get a shout out at the end of the podcast and some of our movies. So, Tanya Kraft, thank you so much for contributing to the Bomb Squad. We really appreciate it. You help me, as I've recently begun losing money on this enterprise every month. Your contribution means the world to us. Thank you. And if you are watching on YouTube, thank you oh so very much for watching. Go down in the comment section below and let me know. What do you think made David Lynch stand out as a director? What do you think of Wild at Heart? What's your favorite David Lynch movie? And finally, what do you want? Comment below and let me know. And while you're down there, hit the like button so we know how much you like us. Hit the subscribe button so we know how much you love us. Hit the bell icon so you know exactly when we upload new videos. Thank you so much for watching. Tune in next week when we talk about the Lego movie, hosted by Mr. Joe Vrenick.
Yeah,
that'll be very fun and not depressing at all. We promise.
Yeah, this is gonna be an important one, guys. You might want to see this one.
Watch the Lego movie right now.
Yeah, do it. It's a great movie.
But we'll see you then. Bye.
Farewell.
Love me tender, love me sweet, never